So what is up, you bad welcome back to another car video, and we're talking about Joey Coco Diaz. And Joey, they say there's an allegation going on Twitter that said he made a girl give him a BJ so he could, so the girl could go up on the comedy stage and actually perform that night. And Joey Diaz says, "How is there an allegation when I told you what happened?" He says during a podcast in 2011, he was talking to Joe Rogan, and he said, "Hey, this is what happened," and he elaborated, like made the story sound more outrageous than what he says. He said, "Oh, I made the girl do it 20 times," and he goes, "Was it 20 times? How do you motherfuckers know? How do you know?" And then he goes out to say that his wife, he had to talk to his wife, and his wife goes, "So what is going on? I heard something about an allegation towards you. I need to know what's going on." And this is his wife. And he goes, "Well, back in 1997 at the comedy show, a girl gave me a BJ before she went on stage." And she goes, "Oh, I can't really do much about that." And he goes, "You can't do nothing about it." And she goes, "Well, we didn't even get together and start talking until 1998. So basically whatever you did before that doesn't really concern me." And people are trying to, I guess, get Joey Diaz in trouble with his wife, where it'll be like, "Oh, there's a scandal and him and his wife break up." And he said he's been with his wife for over 20 years. And the incident that actually happened in 97. And then the incident on the podcast happened in 2011. And he said, "Why, you got anything better to do than try to ruin someone's life? Do you really got nothing better to do than to ruin someone's life?" He has a point, though. He says the girl already contacted him and already squashed it. She said she Facebooked him a while ago and said, "Hey, Joey, what happened. I live in the happened in the past, and I'm married. I have a kid now. It's all gravy. Slap hands, whoopie woo." That could be the truth. That cannot be the truth. But like Joey says, a lot of times when you're on the podcast, you're just freestyling. You might be talking about something, and you might be elaborating on it a little bit more than actually it is. You might be saying something, or you're just, like Joey says, you're a lot of times you're just going through the motions and you're high and you're just talking about shit, and you might say something that you don't realize in the moment what you said, and then you're like, oops, I shouldn't have said that. But like he says, because in the complaint, a lot of people are like, "Well, Joe Rogan had his hands in there going, ha ha ha," and he was laughing, right? And like Joey says, how do you know when the cameras were off, Joe Rogan didn't sit down with Joey Diaz and said, "Yo, dude, you can't be talking about this. You can't be saying you made a girl give you head on a stage somewhere. You can't be doing this because someone's going to use this against you." How do you know that Joe Rogan didn't do that? And a lot of people go, we don't know what happens when the microphone's turned off, when the cameras are off. We don't know. And Joe Rogan, they said Joe Rogan had his hands in there laughing. I was like, not really. He didn't really laugh a lot, and you could see Joe Rogan's face when he was saying that. Joe Rogan looked like, "Oh, damn, you made some girl give you head?" I mean, Joey Diaz has always said some of the craziest shit you ever heard. It's like Mickey Gall, UFC fighter, has said, you cannot relate to Joey Diaz. There's most people that you can relate to. Like, you could go and talk to your buddy and go, "Yeah, I remember when you were at the bar. I can kind of relate to that because I had an incident like that." Or, I can relate to that job site kind of incident. But Joey, you can't, because his stories are so outrageously crazy, stuff Joey says. Like, he said in one of his episodes, he mugged somebody or kidnapped somebody and threw him in the back of the trunk of the car. And he goes, "Well, how come none of these people that are coming out of the woodworks talking about Joey Diaz actually are saying, hey, what about the guy that you threw in the back of your trunk of your car? Nobody's talking about that. No one's talking about the fact that when Joey was younger, he got hit in the head with a lunchbox and got knocked out. No one's talking about that either. And no one's talking about the fact that him and Joey Diaz and his boys used to go to the park, and when there was like truck drivers there that were looking for like BJs, they would all jump out the bushes and the shrubs and beat these guys up and take their money. No one ever talked about that. The main reason he has created the podcast when he did is because he wanted to show the world that a hardcore drug addict that was on coke, that was in and out of the prison system, can make something of themselves and can be able to become something than just a borderfied loser. Because we all know that is the case. We all know that it's a possibility that if you're a drug addict or you're a person that was in and out of the prison system, you're barely going to be able to get a job. You might work at the Burger King or the McDonald's or the fast food joint, and that's basically your life. But Joey has turned his life around and became a father at like 50 years old, which is crazy. He's not one of the biggest comedians in the world, because there's still a lot of people that I know that have no clue who Joey Diaz is. They have no idea. And when they see Joey Diaz, they just see him as like, oh, that's a fat guy. And it's like, yeah, he doesn't come off as like a Kevin Hart or a Dave Chappelle. He doesn't come off as that kind of, I'm a rich guy. He does not come off like that. He comes off as a guy who loves what he's doing, but he's very, very, and what I mean very, very real about it, he says stuff that most comedians will never say. He tells his life story, and he tells it because he wants people to know if you're basically like a bum or a loser or you have nothing going for yourself, that you can turn your life around and you can better yourself. So these allegations, he says, how is it an allegation when I told you the truth? I told you I did it. He's the one that brought the story up. That would be like me telling you something and you go, well, it's an allegation. No girl came out and said Joey did this, Joey did that. Joey said, I told you. And these people on Twitter are like, oh yeah, he did. We really can't do nothing now, because he told you that he did something. It'd be like me going in the gym and said, oh, I just bench pressed 300 pounds. And then you hear some girl in the gym, yeah, but did you hear Trevor did that? And people go, that's hearsay when you say, did you hear somebody do something? But in reality, when you come out of the woodworks and you say, did you hear? That is hearsay when you say, did you hear? Because when you say, did you hear, you don't know if that's true or not. But when you say, when the person says, I did what I said I did, but I elaborated on the incident a little bit more than whatever, you don't know what's right or wrong or what's true or false. That's the problem with the podcast like what Joey does. You never know what's the truth of the matter. You don't really know. And that is the main reason, because of what he has done. He's so real that some of his, I think the reason why I think Joey Diaz is so funny, to be completely honest with you, is because the stories are so outrageous. You can't believe this shit is even real, but they're funny. He's talked about shitting in his neighbor's backyard. He's talked about taking a dump in his backyard because he locked himself out of his house. He's talked about shit that I'm like, how you even do that, man? How do you even do this? But he's talked about it because he doesn't care. He wants people to know, if you're a cocaine head or a crack head, you can change your life to a positive thing. That's why he talks about this crazy stuff. But as always, I will talk to you guys next time. Let me know what you guys think. And the Church of What's Happening Now is one of the baddest podcasts. It's still funny. I like it when it's Joey and Lee do the podcast. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the guests that's on the show, but at the end of the day, I fucking love what he talks about, even though it's so outrageous. I can't relate to a lot of it, but some of it makes it seem like, hey, I could better my life. I could do better. If he could do better, I could probably change my life to do a better thing. But as always, it's your boy Trevor back with another car vlog, baby. Woohoo!